welcome back to the shop. Thanks for choosing to spend a little time this afternoon in the shop with me. Down below is a link to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click that subscribe button. Also, there's a little bell next to it. Click that bell, that way you'll get an email every time we post up a new video here. If you'd like to follow what we're doing in the shop and around here on the farm between videos, be sure to follow us on Instagram under Do Right Builder or on our Do Right Fabrication Facebook page. So what we have before us today is what we call a popcorn steam engine. Now this is an actual working model steam engine. Now this particular one belongs to Uncle Keith Rucker from vintagemachinery.org. Now, no, he's not my uncle, but I like to call him Uncle Keith Rucker. If you haven't followed Keith Rucker's YouTube channel, be sure to do that. He is the master of all things machining, steam engine, large iron. He is the man. So the plan is to disassemble the steam engine, fix a few things that aren't working right on it, get it all reassembled, everything working good. Later on, Keith and I are going to work on a project together that's going to be powered by this steam engine. I asked Keith where he got it, and he says he knows where he bought it, but he doesn't know any history about it. There's no data plates on it, no information available, which makes me tend to believe that somewhere along the line this was a home-built kit. However, there is no trademarks, no names, nothing that we've been able to find on it so far. So here are a couple of the tasks at hand. Number one, it is a working steam engine. Let me show you that. Now, some of you that are sharp-eyed have probably already started to see a couple of problems here. Number one, I don't know what's going on with this. We'll have to take that apart and figure it out. This is part of the governor assembly. The pulley here is a little bit loose. The belt here is a homemade belt out of a leather thong. It's a little too long. All the bright work on it has tarnished because it's brass, so we'll pull it apart and shine it all up. Some of the steel parts have some surface rust on them. Everything is free and obviously runs real well. I'm not sure what's up with this whole intake pipe thing here with the valve on it. It doesn't look very nice to me, so we'll try to come up with something different. And then the exhaust through an elbow, and that elbow has no kind of diffuser or baffle on it, so it's kind of loud, so we're going to try to make that a little bit quieter. So this thing has some tapered pins in it, and what I would like to do is to just see if I can real gently drift out these tapered pins with just a punch and a hammer without putting a lot of pressure on it. So I think this is the smaller side. It is. There we go. There's another tapered pin. It looks like holding the flywheel in. Well, that came out super easy. Now the flywheel is loose. That is definitely a bolt, but there is no cross pins, no Allen bolt. That's very odd. And I can see that it's threaded back here from this side, but I have no idea how they expect you to tighten that up. Zero pressure to turn it. Oh, look at that. It's actually a nut. It's round. So I don't even know how they expect you to tighten it up. There's no even holes to put a pin spanner in it. Pull this wrist pin out here. See if we can push the piston back up. There's an oiler on here. That's good. It's in good shape. Bronze bushing. I'm starting to believe that this is somebody's kit built or home built steam engine. This has got a bronze bushing in it, and it has an oil hole to allow for lubrication, but the oil hole has never been drilled through the bronze bushing. So that's something right there we're going to need to fix. So a lot of these bolts on this thing are just like literally finger tight. I'm not having to put any pressure on them whatsoever. They just turn, but they're just so small I can't grip them with my big fat fingers. So what I don't know that I could find is a set of ignition wrenches, because I haven't had to use a set of ignition wrenches in so long. I have to think about where they are, because these are all very tiny hex head bolts that are in here. There's an example of how small little hex head bolt is. The only reason I'm going to have anything that size is going to be in an ignition wrench set maybe. The bolts definitely look homemade to me, like somebody, maybe they were castings and you had to put your own threads on them or whatever. This rod cap right here, it doesn't have an indexing mark of whether it would fit this way or this way, so I want to put a couple of witness marks on it. That way I know which way it goes back together when I take it off. There's the crank. The crank pin itself is brass. This is that funny nut. So I'm going to just thread that on there so we don't lose anything. So it has bolts that go all the way through, and they're like that long underneath. So it's going to take a couple of minutes of unthreading. Now Keith told me that he doesn't think that this base is original. He's not sure if it was part of a larger fixture at one time or if somebody adapted it from another steam-powered toy. It's in fairly bad shape, so we're thinking about making a new base for it. At this point right now, though, I just want to get it all taken apart. That's one of the bearing blocks. See if we can get the power pulley off. That appears to be homemade for sure. Would not expect that kind of quality work out of a company. There we go. So we got a flywheel, pretty heavy. Just a step pulley so that you can pick out your governor speeds. Here's the little spacer we were having to give a little motivation to. Thrust washer, crankshaft, leather belt. We'll have to come up with something different later. So now what we need to do is to turn this bad boy around. A couple of interesting things here is this has machine turn in this cover. Mr. Pete 222 just did a video on machine turning. Maybe we'll have to take a look here and see if we need to put into practice anything we learned from Mr. Pete. If you haven't watched Mr. Pete's channel, Mr. Pete 222 or Tublicane, he's pretty much the godfather of all things machining on YouTube. Just a little clevis eye. And here's our slide valve or slide block. A couple things interesting here. You can see where somebody who is probably a beginner machinist, they had an end mill in here and opened this up, but it's not very neatly done. The way this works is this valve slides back and forth. This is the exhaust port right here. The air goes down through that pipe, down through here, exhaust out. Whichever side gets charged with air pressure is which side the piston, either if it charges this side, fills here, pushes the piston down. At that point, it changes the cycle of the valve and allows the air to come in here, pushes on this side of the piston, and pushes the piston back. So going back to what I was saying before, I am fairly comfortable saying this is machined by somebody at home. The layout lines for the drilling the holes is there. The machining, they didn't break the corners when they machined it. You know, I mean, it is what it is, right? There we go. And look at that. Well, I'll be dang. So back in my previous life, I used to be a small engine mechanic. I used to do a lot of working on engines. And those of you that have done small engine work can take a look at that, and you should know immediately what that is. That right there is a set of piston rings. That's the compression ring, the scraper ring, and the oil ring off a small engine. So this kit allowed you to put that together and make a regular set of engine rings out of something commercially available. It's actually kind of cool. I like that. This engine has sat a long time in one position because there's a rusted ring all the way around it. And honestly, there's not a whole lot we can do about it. There's really no way to go oversize on the cylinder. Even if we were to try to go 10 over, we'd be getting dangerously close to these screws right here. And then we might get away with it, but then we'd have to make a new piston, and we'd have to figure out what bore those piston rings came out of, what small engine. It's probably an edger motor, something small, 2.5 horsepower. And then we'd have to try to order a set of 10,000 rings that match. It can be done, it's not impossible. Probably not something we want to tackle for this project. Let's see what's going on here. The way this assembly works is it's driven by that belt. The belt drives the pulley and this spins around. As these weights sling out from centrifugal force, they push up and down on this needle valve. So the faster it spins, the more it pushes down on that needle valve. That needle goes in here and it basically closes off the air supply. So it sort of acts like a governor. Now as the motor sees more work, the speed slows down, the weights begin to drop, it pulls the valve up and applies more steam pressure. In this case, we're going to call it air pressure. Again, somebody's homemade kit here. Overall, I like it. We'll work on that a little bit later. That's going to take some work in itself. I know there's a little bit of something that's wonky here in this governor. It still spins and works freely, I don't know if it's an adjustment of the needle valve assembly or what. The next kind of step for me is to just take all these little things apart piece by piece, take them over the parts cleaner, degrease them, get them all cleaned up, and then try to look at what's going to be needing to be fixed, and then we'll move forward with brass, cleaning up the brass. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed what you saw here today. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and like us on Facebook. Please, somewhere down below here is a link. See you soon.